Good morning, everyone. For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas. To begin this morning, Greece wakes up with banks closed and with capital controls imposed by the government. It comes part of attempts to prevent a banking collapse. Israeli forces intercept a freedom flotilla with humanitarian aid headed to Gaza. Plus, Venezuela's ruling Socialist Party holds primaries ahead of December's parliamentary elections. Good morning. As we said there, Venezuela's ruling socialists have held primaries ahead of December's parliamentary elections. Over 1,000 candidates appeared on ballots across the country. 98 of them will be chosen to run as candidates on behalf of the PSUV, the largest political party in Latin America. The PSUV has gone to great lengths to promote inclusiveness in these primary elections, including among women and youth. Now, only 15% of candidates are above the age of 50, and more than half of them are women. The latest study from polling firm Interlaces shows that 62% of Venezuelans want the ruling socialists to stay in government. And in Honduras now, hundreds of supporters of the National Resistance Front and the Libre Party clashed against government supporters in the capital of Tegucigalpa. It comes on the anniversary of the 2009 Honduran coup d'etat. The protest comes just days after violent protests swept the capital, calling for President Juan Orlando Hernandez to resign and demanding an international investigation into a series of corruption allegations. Now, simultaneously, protesters supporting the ruling National Party also took to the streets in support of the president. Demonstrators from both sides faced off in the city streets, where riot police and military had to split up the two groups. At least 5 people were injured during the demonstrations. Around the world now, Greece woke up today with all of its banks closed and with capital controls imposed by the government to prevent banks from collapsing. More now on that story in our World News segment.
The closure will take place until July 6, one day after the referendum in which Greeks have to decide whether they want to obey the harsh measures imposed by their creditors. In the meantime, citizens are only allowed to withdraw up to €6 per day. The measure does not affect foreigners or pensioners. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras declared a response to the state of extreme emergency after the breakdown in talks between Athens and its creditors. The Athens Stock Exchange will also remain closed for transactions. The euro has fallen sharply against the dollar and safe haven U.S. government debt futures rallied as investors exhibit fears of a Greek default and exit from the eurozone.
The institution's ultimatum on the night of the 27th, and Juncker's sudden proposal. I'm wondering if he would dare do the same in France, Germany, or even Luxembourg, his country of origin. Would he dare intervene when there is a decision to have a referendum and say, "It is not the way it is, it's how I say it is"?
The Freedom Flotilla that was aimed to reach Gaza with humanitarian aid on Monday has been intercepted by the Israeli army earlier this morning. The attack has taken place on international waters and the ship Marian is being taken to Ashdod port. The crew was made up with some 70 activists and international politicians from over 20 countries, including an Israeli Arab lawmaker. The Israeli forces said it was a short operation free of any casualties. The 4-vessel flotilla was the latest in a series of protest voyages across the Mediterranean against Israel's 9-year blockade on the Gaza Strip. The first attempt ended in an attack in which Israeli soldiers killed 10 Turkish activists.
The pro-Gaza activists on board the flotilla chose to come and protest at the State of Israel, the only real democratic state in the Middle East, who fight against terrorists, who deliberately fire at Israeli citizens and deliberately hide behind Palestinian civilians. Therefore, this flotilla is infected with hypocrisy, and I'm glad to say that this flotilla generates less public and propaganda impact because people around the world begin to understand the lie it holds.
And a Palestinian prisoner who has been 55 days on hunger strike will be released in 2 weeks, according to Israeli authorities. Kader Adnan has been detained 10 times without any charges against him, under what the Zionist country calls administrative detention. Adnan received a visit from his family last week, in which many thought would be the final one due to his physical condition. Still in the Mediterranean, almost 3,000 migrants have been rescued by the Italian Coast Guard. British, Irish and Spanish ships have also participated in the rescue as members of the European Union Task Force Triton. As a result of a summit in Brussels last Friday, the EU Border Protection Agency Frontex is to be given a new mandate to start missions to repatriate migrants. Though accelerating a process that has so far been carried out mostly by the individual EU members, nearly 2,000 people have died so far this year trying to reach Italy or Greece by boat. Many of them flee violence in North Africa and the Middle East. In the US, a social media campaign and a petition under the name Free BREE is calling for the release of Bree Newsom and a fellow activist. She is the African-American woman who took down the Confederate flag in front of the South Carolina State House along with another activist. The two of them were arrested by local police. They are reportedly charged with defacing a monument and could face up to 3 years in prison or a fine up to $5,000. Across the United States, African Americans are applauding a fast-growing movement to remove the Confederate flag from public life after last week's racially charged massacre on 9 black worshippers in a Charleston church. The flag was returned to its position within hours of its removal. China has announced a possible agreement on the Iranian nuclear issue within a week. Vice Foreign Minister Li Baodong told reporters on Sunday in Vienna that negotiators from the United States, Britain, China, France, Russia and Germany and Iran have had many bilateral discussions. These have led him to the conclusion that negotiators in the talks are only a step away from a comprehensive nuclear deal.
Today, all parties held bilateral negotiations. Representatives from the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, Germany, and the European Union held many discussions and came to the conclusion that the prospect of reaching an agreement is optimistic.
Hundreds of people, Muslims and Catholics, gathered at a mosque near the French city of Lyon to remember the victim who was decapitated on Friday by one of his employees. 54-year-old Hervé Cornara was killed by his employee and suspected Muslim extremist Yassine Salih. The murderer beheaded him and pinned his head to the factory's gate. Many Muslims who attended the memorial denounced the killing, calling it an isolated terror attack by an extremist. According to French media reports, Salih told police he'd argued with Cornara before the killing. One of their work colleagues also said the two men had clashed days before the attack.
We also are deeply hurt. It seems that whenever things like this happen, the Islamic religion is always attacked. So we are here to call for the end of this barbarity. We are against terrorism of all forms.
Sporting news now. Chile and Peru are set for a contentious semifinals match of the Copa America. Now, of course, off the soccer field, the two countries have traditionally clashed politically through border disputes and the 19th century war. The traditional animosity between the two Andean neighbors dates back to the War of the Pacific, which Chile fought against the combined forces of Peru and Bolivia. Chile must contend with the suspension of defender Gonzalo Jara. He will miss the rest of the Copa America after being suspended for 3 matches for sticking his finger in an opponent's backside. We all saw that injury. We all saw that photo, rather, and also faking an injury during a match. The world celebrated Gay Pride this weekend with parades across the globe, and many say that although there are important victories to celebrate for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people, such as the approval of gay marriage in many countries across the world, they say there's still much to be done. Many countries still use the death penalty or severe punishments for homosexuals. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great Monday. Have a great week.